Okay, I know that basically, like, every single video on my YouTube channel right now is about Amphibia, and I have a ton of video ideas that, like, I'm working on right now and I want to make that are all also about Amphibia, so they're gonna be the next stuff that I post also. So for now, my YouTube channel is just gonna be an Amphibia YouTube channel, because I go through phases about what cartoons I'm obsessed with, and right now I'm obsessed with Amphibia, so that's gonna last for a little while. Just give me, like, a few months, and then I'll probably be moving on to something else. But the whole point of this video is I love Marcy to death, I love Terri to death, and I really love the idea of them being sisters. I love it so much. And I've created like a headcanon / alternate universe sort of thing about both of them being sisters, and I'm so passionate about it, and I want to talk about it on here and like say all my ideas. So first off, there's evidence for Terri being Marcy's sister, okay? There's actually evidence. First off, their names sound kind of similar, both of them just ending in E, like the sound E. And also, okay, that's not that big of a evidence though. The main thing that made me start thinking about this is their hair, and they both have short hair, but like that's not genetic. So like the thing that really got to me was that both of them have like the same sort of like hair shape, like with the little like part like in the same like place like above the ear, and then their hair like goes out and does stuff, and then they have like a little bit like in front and like by their ear. If you know what I'm talking about, like look at their hair and then like study their hair, and then you will tell. And yes, I study their hair. It's because I want to draw them, and you need to know what their hair looks like to draw them. But also the main thing that like really gets to me also is like the weird highlights in their hair, because like Marcy has those highlights in her hair, and ever since like I first saw them, I was really confused. I'm like, is her hair greasy or something? Because like it would make sense if all the characters had highlights, but they don't. It's only like Marcy that has highlights in her hair. So I was just really confused. I still am confused. Is her hair just really greasy, or okay, but like no. The thing is Terri also has the weird highlights in her hair. And the thing is they have it in the same place. They like have some like in the front, and then they have some like back like by their ear. It's in the same place. I also know that like Molly Jo also has those highlights in her hair, but it's different because they're in different places and she has like a different hairstyle and stuff, you know? But so there's the evidence. Also, they have really similar personalities. I know that's not necessarily genetic, but they're both nerds, you know? Also, I was really concerned if like Terri was like the same age as them, because then I'm like, then it would be really difficult for them to be sisters. But like because in the episode, she was like, if you give a frog a cookie, in that episode, you can see that she's actually taller than Anne, which is like the best way to show in cartoons that the character's older. So it actually works. The ages work. And also, something that I also found really interesting is I feel like shows like Amphibia and stuff, they like to tell us what the characters' last names are when they like get the chance to. Like when we met Humphrey, he said his last name when he like introduced himself to Hop Pop and stuff, and just I feel like we know what their last names are a lot of the time. When the show has a chance to tell us, they tell us. And the thing about Terri is we don't actually know her last name. Like that's one thing, but also we see her key card, and I feel like that would have been the perfect way to let the fans know what her last name is. And I feel like that would have been something that Amphibia would have done, right? But like they chose not to. On her key card, it only says Terri. I'm probably way overanalyzing this, but like I just find that really interesting. So there's the evidence that they're sisters. And now I'm gonna go into, so like my headcanon is that they are sisters. And now I'm gonna go into more alternate universe territory and talk about the pictures that I'm drawing right now also, which are more headcanon, more alternate universe, because I don't really know what exactly is going. Also, in this alternate universe, I imagine that Marcy's 13, like she is in the show, and Terri is 18, so they're like 5 years apart. But I don't know what I think's going on with Marcy's parents. Like, I do think that there's definitely struggles with her parents, because Marcy being so desperate to like escape into a fantasy world, believing that the music box would work in the first place, and being so desperate to want to go to another world. Like, there's a lot more going on in your life than just your parents are making you move away, you know? Like, I feel like there's gotta be so much more going on with her character than just that, to be so desperate to escape, you know? So I think that something is definitely going on with her parents, and just with her family life in general. But I'm not exactly sure what, so I don't know what my theory for that is. So in this alternate universe, they're just really angry people. Marcy and Terri's parents. They're, like, constantly fighting each other, but, like, it's more than that. They're just angry. Like, they're angry towards Marcy and Terri, too. They're angry towards each other, and it's just a really, like, negative environment where they're just angry all the time. So, Marcy and Terri have this really close sisterhood where they're there for each other when struggling with their parents and stuff. And, like, I drew a picture of this as one of the pictures. Basically, I imagine what they do is a lot of the times, I imagine they share a room also, and a lot of the time they just go into their room, they just lock the door, and they just do stuff together. Like, while their parents outside of their room are just yelling at each other, and it's just really negative out there, the two sisters are there for each other. Like, in this one, they're just crying in each other's embrace. And I imagine that sort of thing happens. And also, I imagine they probably, like, play video games together and stuff, too, and, like, geek out about stuff, you know? They have a really close bond, and they're just there to protect each other. Especially Terri, being the older sister, saying, I need to protect Marcy. So, I imagine that happens. And also, I imagine at one point, when Terri's, like, probably when she turned 18, she really does love Marcy, and she really does want to protect Marcy. She loves her with, like, every part of her being. But she really doesn't want to be in the environment that she's in, and she's like, I need to get out of here. So when she turned 18, she left home, and I imagine that there's a scene. I don't know why I'm saying this is a scene. This isn't a series. But, like, I imagine that she, like, told Marcy, hey, even though I'm moving out, I'm always going to be here, okay? Just, if anything happens, call me immediately, and I'll come right over. Like, she didn't want to leave Marcy, but she wanted to be able to, you know, go be a scientist, and go just have a more positive environment than her house, you know? So that's why she isn't at home. And, this is the other, picture that I drew, where it's the little comic about how probably like a day or two after the portal opened up in her and Dr. Frank's lab, like after the portal opened, it's probably like a few days after that when Marcy and Terri's parents called Terri, and then that little scene happens where Terri doesn't want to talk to them because she doesn't like them. Like, her and Marcy react to the situation in a different way. Marcy wants to escape to her fantasy worlds and wants to just escape from everything. And Terri, on the other hand, the way that she deals with it is she's kind of angry. Like, she's sassy in the episode, okay? Because, like, the way that she deals with it is sass. And, like, also, like, just saying stuff like that to her parents, like, you know I don't want to talk to you right now. I don't like you. But, so basically, and then they, like, tell her that Marcy's missing, and then she continues to, like, work at the lab and stuff, but, like, she assumes that Marcy ran away, and I'm also gonna make a comic where, like, see, like, I've literally created, like, these little scenes for this alternate universe, and I'm probably gonna draw them too eventually. And another scene that I imagine happening is actually, it's all connecting. See, it's all connected. It's hard to talk about one thing because there's other stuff that also plays into this, if that makes any sense at all. But she thinks that Marcy ran away, and she totally understands, because she's like, yeah, our home life sucks. I totally understand why she ran away. And she's like, I just hope that she's happier wherever she is. But there is that feeling inside of her that she felt as an older sister, where it's like, oh my gosh, she literally could be dead because of me, because I left, and just because I wasn't a good enough older sister and stuff like that. And I imagine that's like something that she struggles with a lot, is I caused this. I caused whatever happened to her getting possessed. But yeah, I imagine that is something that she struggles with. And I also imagine, like, see, there are just, like, a lot of these loose ends that I'm trying to clear up, and that's why it's kind of an alternate universe. Because, like, the other thing is, why didn't she recognize Anne in If You Give a Frog a Cookie? And if they're sisters, her and Marcy, then wouldn't she have, like, recognized Anne, right? But I think that Marcy hides everything. She bottles everything up. And that's why everything ended up, like, happening the way it did. And I imagine that she bottles up all of her friend issues, she bottles up all her family issues, and she just hides them from each other. Like, around her friends, she doesn't want to talk about her home life at all. And I imagine that they probably didn't even know that she had a sister. Marcy probably doesn't want to talk about it. Even though her and, like, Terri have a positive relationship, she just does not want to focus on her terrible home life. So she just avoids talking about it. And that's why Anne didn't know that Terri was Marcy's sister. And the other thing is, I imagine that, like, when Marcy was, like, she also wants to just keep her friend life away from, like, her family life. She just wants to have them be two separate worlds. And, like, when she's younger, she probably told Terri about her friends, but probably, like, in a young way, you know? Like, not to the point where Terry's gonna know exactly who they are, know their last names and stuff like that. Because, like, Marcy was friends with Anne and Sasha when she was little. But, so, she probably talked about Terri about them then, but especially as she gets older, she just bottles up all of her friend issues and Sasha's toxic friendness, and she just didn't want to tell Terri about them. Like I said, she probably, like, mentioned them when she was younger, and she probably, like, mentions their, like, first names sometimes, but she probably never truly, like, talked to them, said their last names, said their personalities, stuff like that, because she just wants to avoid all of that. She just wants to keep everything separate. Also, I imagine that there's this scene where Terri and Anne and the planters and all of them are trying to build the portal. They're in the process of building the portal to get back to Amphibia, and Anne just starts talking about Marcy to probably Sprig for one reason or another. And then Terri, like, overhears them, and she's like, oh my gosh, you know Marcy? Marcy Wu? And then Anne's like, yeah. And then, it sounds so childish. It's like a storybook. No. Story time. No. And then she's like, oh my gosh, you know Marcy? Marcy Wu? And then Anne's like, yeah, she's, like, my best friend. And then Terry's like, oh my gosh, that's my sister. And then they, like, start communicating about it, and she tells her about how she thinks that Marcy ran away, and how their home life sucks and stuff. And then they both, like, continue talking, and then they come to the conclusion, Marcy, why did you hide all of this from us? Because Anne's like, Marcy never told us anything about her terrible family life. And Terry's like, she never told me anything about how toxic her friendship was. And then they, like, felt really bad. They're like, she should have opened up to us more. We would have listened, you know? And I'm probably going to make a comic about that too. But yeah, that's basically the whole universe, is just they're sisters, they have a rough family life, they're there for each other, and Marcy keeps everything bottled up. And I'm obsessed with this. Please become canon, please. Not everything exactly, because a lot of this is my headcanon, and a lot of this I do consider canon to me. But, like, some of it, like, with the Marcy's parents situation, I don't know what to call this. I don't know if that's exactly what I think's going on, so that's just for this alternate universe, that whole situation. And, yeah, that's basically the whole thing. I am obsessed with this so much. I just think it'd be really cute. I just love both of these characters so much. I love having interesting family relationships and interesting connections that have, like, developed because of specific things happening, like Terri and Marcy and their strong bond because of their parents. And I really hope that something like this is canon. Not everything has to be exact, obviously, but I think it'd be really sweet. And, yeah, and of course there are all the pictures, the comic, yeah, I explained all of them. There's the comic, when she first finds out, there's them crying in their room together. And the top one is just them together. That was the first time I actually drew them together, because I'm like, do they even look like they could be sisters? I'm like, they actually kind of do. That's the thing. Like, I draw, like, this is something that I kind of don't like that I do. but it's hard for me to change my, like, art style and stuff. Because, like, I always give my characters just round heads and just round eyes, and that's it. But, like, the thing is, like, Terri's head is more, like, oval-shaped, and, like, her eyes are more, like, circular than Marcy's, and Marcy's eyes are a bit more, like, squinted. And, like, they're just different, you know? And that's something I love about Amphibias. All the characters look different, and, like, they have different nationalities and stuff, and you can tell. I love that Amphibia does that. But they all still look good together. I love it. But, yeah, they look like sisters in mine, because I always give everyone the same head shape and eye shape and everything, but I think they could still pass as sisters. Like, I was looking at the skin tones, too, and I'm like, are these gonna be, like, really different skin tones, and it's, like, impossible for them to be sisters? I don't think so. I think they actually look pretty good together. That's another thing, actually. Like, while drawing them, I realized that their outfits actually have similar colors, too. Like, they have, like, muted, like, greenish, gray stuff, and, like, greenish blue stuff, like, as their outfits. Not when Marcy's, like, in Amphibia, but when she's, like, wearing her hoodie on Earth. They have, like, really similar color schemes, actually. So there's actually quite a bit of evidence that could support this theory. But anyway, that's that. I need to stop talking. I love Amphibia. I have opinions about Season 3, and I'm gonna make a video talking about those, but I love my girls. I love them as sisters. It's great. Have a nice day. Adios.